Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. And now there's a lot of study in terms of neurology and positive psychology in terms of the flow state. The flow state, one of the lead researcher, Mikhail Sibisky, is a lead professor in terms of flow state, and the Flow Genome Project has given some idea of how our brain interacts to develop an understanding of the nature of flow. But before I explain to you this whole concept of how our brainwave pattern and the neurotransmitters as well as hormonal play into our brain, we got to go back to the Islamic concept first. Okay, we understand that from our perspective, all those research are talking about the conscious and subconscious mind as well as the brain. For example, for the atheistic professors in terms of neurology or psychology, they will talk about only the brain only. Alright? But we have a higher function. That means the conscious and the subconscious resides maybe within the capacity of our brain cells. Alright? So the flow state actually extend beyond the flow state actually extend beyond the nature of the conscious subconscious, because it got to go into the supraconscious mind. This is where we have connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why in terms of khushu', we are in a flow state when we have khushu' in our prayer. And also I'll explain to you how this is in relation to this Islamic understanding of fana and baqa. But I'm explaining it from the perspective of modern psychology. Remember, I'm not taking this from the perspective of, say, Sufism or whatever it is. But I'm giving you an idea that there are a lot of research in where they are reaching a conclusion that we must have a higher level of thinking in terms of intuition. But where does intuition come about? We say it is not from the conscious. It is from the subconscious, but it is also from the realm of the supraconscious, because we have our SEM, spiritual, emotional and mental. So our mind at the highest level is al-akal al-kulli, and the mind at the lower level is al-akal al-juzi. From the Islamic perspective, we have a wonderful model that need a lot of research, but I'm giving you some idea of how this is then related to the flow state. Because when you are in the flow state, you're happy, you are very, very concentrated and focused in your work. You feel so relaxed. You feel that you're free from fear. You feel that you are close to a higher being. Alright, these are all experiences that people get during flow state, and a lot of these flow state are now being done research with meditation. Alright, so people who goes into meditation has a very high level of energy in terms of the brainwave pattern. Very, very high. So how does this flow state in terms of our understanding from the modern psychology vis-a-vis, alright, Islamic psychology, maybe I explain it further. One is basically, there are 4 levels of flow state. This is from the Flow Genome Project. One is the state of struggle. The next one is release. The third one is flow. And the fourth one is recovery. Every one of us, while we are talking, while we are in stress, while we are aware, when we are doing our work, we are in the state of struggle. That's why we are generating beta brainwaves. Beta brainwaves are the conscious brainwaves that can affect our stress, fight or flight response. The stress could be, we're getting a nasty email. The stress could be we quarrel with our co-worker, or the stress could be we quarrel with our spouses or friends and so on. So at this level, we are generating a lot of cortisol and norepinephrine. That means we are giving our brain toxic neurotransmitters and hormones that cause us to be stressed out. So if continuously we are in struggle, we will get into all kind of physiological problems in terms of, for example, having depression, anxiety, in terms of our physical body becoming too degenerate, to become weaker and weaker, and finally we get a lot of chronic diseases. From here we move, if we want to move that, then we must have consciousness, the consciousness to change ourselves. So we want to go into release. So at release we start the meditation, or the start of our khushu, or start of what we are going to do in terms of our relationship of getting away from fight or flight to release. So when we do this, we get alpha brainwave, and alpha brainwave is the brainwave that is calming, soothing, and it is the beginning of our understanding, or we are getting into the state of flow. All right, so here we generate nitric acid to flush out the cortisol and the norepinephrine. When we go into the later state, all right, in terms of our meditation or our zikrullah, or our tafakkur, tazakkur circle, we go into tafakkur here, tazakkur, and then we go into the state of khushu. All right, so we have at this level what we call flow. This is where we feel there is no time and space. We forget about this dunya. We forget about all other things except what we are doing. All right, for example, if we are in the zikr, when we are doing this zikr, we are thinking of our closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that will be the effect. If we are doing, say, reading a book, we are so engrossed in the book that we forgot we already spent 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, or we are looking at nature and so on. So we are in this flow state. At the flow state, our brainwave pattern, from the EEG, we can get the theta and gamma brainwave pattern. You can see that, all right, and then this is where you generate the hormones and neurotransmitters, dopamine, endorphin, and anandamide. Anandamide is a cannabinoid, a natural cannabinoid that gives you the feeling of pleasure, tremendous pleasure. Then, after going to the flow state, you got to go to recovery at the fourth stage, where you go through delta brainwave. So, this delta and gamma brainwave very seldom you have if you are not having khushu, or not having deep thoughts about Allah, or not deep thoughts about whatever challenges that you are doing in terms of your research, in terms of your reading, in terms of even sports person. When you generate this brainwave, you go into flow. Then to recover, you have this delta brainwave. This is where you go back to the sleep. That's why to get flow, you must have full, good sleep. You recover, and then you can overcome the struggle, go to release, go to flow, and recover again. But if your life is all, 90% of human beings is always living in struggle. This is mentioned in Al-Quran. Allah tells us, there's the ayat in Al-Quran where Allah tells us that you're living in struggle. You are always struggling. You are not going anywhere. You're just pusing here. But we have to slowly develop our sense of tafakkur, tazakkur, khushu, go into flow, and back again. So how this is related to fana and baka in terms of our metaphysical understanding, inshallah, in the next video I'll explain to you that this is from the perspective of modern psychology, of how we can understand this phenomena that has been described in a lot of our books written by Imam Ghazali, Ibn Qayyim, and so on, that gives us this understanding of the flow state. But they use the term fana and baqa. So inshallah, in the next video I give you some understanding of this whole idea, inshallah, to trigger some of you to think about some sort of research in terms of how we relate our tafakkur, our tazakkur, our khushu, and how this can become an understanding of a closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of fana and baqa, inshallah.